Welcome to Streaming News Network by Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. ActBlue, the online fundraising platform that has served as a major financial engine for Democratic campaigns since 2004, is facing increased scrutiny amid allegations that it may have accepted fraudulent political donations from questionable domestic and foreign sources. The allegations have triggered an investigation by several House committees, including Administration, Judiciary, and Oversight and Government Reform. Committee leaders say they are examining whether proper safeguards were in place to verify donors and prevent potentially unlawful contributions. Lawmakers initially sought information through voluntary cooperation, and ActBlue reportedly provided some documents. However, that cooperation came to a halt in June after the organization raised concerns about the committee's oversight authority and suspended further disclosures. The investigation intensified on July 22, 2025, when congressional committees issued a subpoena demanding additional records by August 12. The probe comes as concerns continue to grow over campaign finance transparency, donor verification, and the potential for foreign influence in American elections. The outcome could have significant consequences not only for ActBlue, but for the broader political fundraising industry. Lawmakers say the findings could lead to new rules aimed at strengthening transparency and accountability for digital fundraising platforms used by both major political parties. As the August deadline approaches, attention remains focused on what investigators may uncover and whether the case could reshape campaign fundraising practices across the country. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A surprising archaeological discovery on Easter Island is challenging what experts thought they knew about the island's famous Moai statues. More than 1,000 of the massive stone figures have already been documented across the island, known to its indigenous people as Rapa Nui. But in 2023, researchers uncovered something unexpected, a previously unknown Moai hidden in the dried bed of a former lake. Archaeologists say it is the first Moai ever found in what was once a lakebed, making the discovery especially significant. The statue is also among the smallest ever identified. Experts believe changing environmental conditions and continued drying of the area could reveal even more hidden statues in the future. Researchers say thick reeds and sediment may have concealed additional Moai for generations. The statues were created by the Rapa Nui people and are believed to represent important ancestors, chiefs, and community leaders. Most were carved from volcanic tuff, a rock formed from compressed volcanic ash, and each statue was designed with unique features reflecting the individual it honored. The discovery has renewed interest in the island's history and the mysteries surrounding the creation and movement of the towering monuments. Researchers say the find is a reminder that even on one of the world's most studied archaeological sites, important secrets may still be waiting to be uncovered. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Congresswoman Nancy Mace has been eliminated from the race for governor of South Carolina after finishing fifth in the Republican primary. With nearly all votes counted, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette led the field with just under 29% of the vote, followed by South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson with just over 26%. Because neither candidate secured a majority, they will advance to a runoff election later this month. Congressman Ralph Norman finished third, followed by businessman Ram Reddy. Mace received just over 12% of the vote. Despite trailing in pre-election polling, Mace had expressed confidence she could reach the runoff. Following her defeat, she endorsed Wilson and told supporters it was time for what she called a reset. The campaign was marked by several controversies and by Mace's unsuccessful effort to secure an endorsement from President Donald Trump, who instead backed Yvette. Meanwhile, Senator Lindsey Graham avoided a runoff in his bid for a fifth Senate term, winning a majority of votes in the Republican primary. Mace, the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, rose to national prominence after winning a competitive congressional seat and later became one of the most recognizable and outspoken Republicans in the House of Representatives. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman is drawing attention after taking a step that could help advance one of President Donald Trump's federal judicial nominees. Fetterman recently submitted what is known in the Senate as a blue slip, a form used by home state senators to signal whether they support moving forward with a federal judicial nominee. His action clears the way for Senate consideration of Antonio Pozas, Trump's nominee for a judgeship on the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. According to reports, Fetterman is currently the only Democratic senator to have returned a blue slip for one of Trump's judicial nominees during the president's second term, making the move a notable break from the broader Democratic approach to judicial confirmations. The Eastern District of Pennsylvania serves several major communities, including Philadelphia, Allentown, Easton, and Reading. The White House has also nominated Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Martin for a federal judgeship in Michigan. Democratic Senators Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin have not yet indicated whether they will return blue slips for that nomination. Fetterman's office has not publicly commented on the decision. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A Texas jury has convicted 19-year-old Carmelo Anthony of first-degree murder in the death of high school athlete Austin Metcalf, bringing a closely watched case to a conclusion. Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison and will become eligible for parole after serving half of that sentence. Prosecutors argued that Anthony intentionally killed Metcalf during an altercation at a track meet in Frisco, Texas, in April of 2025. Anthony, who was 17 at the time of the incident, admitted to stabbing Metcalf with a folding knife but maintained that he acted in self-defense. Defense attorneys sought to convince jurors that the killing occurred in the heat of the moment, an argument that could have reduced the charge to a lesser offense carrying a significantly shorter potential prison sentence. The jury rejected that claim and returned a first-degree murder verdict. As the sentence was announced in court, emotional reactions were reported from the courtroom, and Anthony was seen visibly upset following the decision. Anthony did not testify during the trial, and the defense rested its case without calling him to the witness stand. This is J. Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. Authorities in Livonia, Michigan, are investigating a deadly shooting that left 4 people dead and 1 man in custody. Police say officers responded to reports of gunfire at a home on Rensselaer Road shortly after 5:30 Tuesday evening. When officers arrived, they encountered a man outside the residence who allegedly told them he had shot members of his family. He was taken into custody without incident. Investigators then entered the home and discovered 4 victims suffering from gunshot wounds. 2 victims were found inside the residence, while 2 others were located in the backyard. All 4 victims, identified as 2 men and 2 women, were pronounced dead at the scene. According to authorities, 3 of the victims were related to the suspect. The 4th victim was reportedly in a relationship with one of the deceased family members. Police recovered a firearm at the scene and continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the shooting. Officials say there is no ongoing threat to the public. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Former DeRidder, Louisiana, Mayor Misty Roberts appeared in court for sentencing this week after being convicted on felony charges involving a 16-year-old boy. During emotional victim impact statements, family members accused Roberts of abusing a position of trust and described the lasting effects the case has had on the teenager and his family. Prosecutors argued that Roberts has not shown genuine remorse and urged the court to impose the maximum sentence allowed under state law. Roberts addressed the court, expressing regret for her actions and apologizing for the embarrassment and pain caused to those involved. She asked the judge for mercy and an opportunity to continue raising her children. Roberts was convicted earlier this year on charges including indecent behavior and carnal knowledge of a minor following allegations stemming from a pool party held in July of 2024. Prosecutors said the former mayor engaged in sexual activity with a teenage guest at the gathering. Defense attorneys argued that Roberts has already faced intense public scrutiny and asked the court to consider mitigating factors during sentencing. The case drew widespread attention across Louisiana because Roberts was serving as mayor at the time of the incident and had been elected as DeRidder's first female mayor. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. The Trump administration is increasing pressure on hospitals across the country to comply with federal healthcare price transparency rules. According to newly released information, more than 500 hospitals have received warnings or corrective action requests for failing to adequately disclose the costs of medical services to patients. Federal officials say the requirements are intended to help consumers better understand healthcare expenses before receiving treatment. The reported enforcement actions span nearly every state. Texas recorded the highest number of citations, with 42 hospitals receiving warnings, followed by California with 38. Alaska was the only state reported to have no hospitals cited for noncompliance. The administration says transparent pricing is a key part of helping patients make informed healthcare decisions and promoting competition within the medical industry. Separately, Texas Children's Hospital recently reached agreements with federal and state authorities to resolve allegations involving billing practices connected to certain medical procedures. The hospital agreed to pay $10 million while denying wrongdoing, according to government officials. Federal regulators say enforcement of hospital price transparency requirements will continue as they work to improve accountability and consumer access to healthcare cost information. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A North Carolina man is facing both state and federal murder charges in connection with the fatal stabbing of a woman aboard a light rail train in Charlotte. Authorities say 30-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. was arrested after surveillance video allegedly captured the attack on Irina Zarutska aboard a Lynx Blue Line train. Investigators say the footage shows Brown approaching the victim from behind and stabbing her multiple times before walking through the train car while still holding the knife. Federal prosecutors allege the attack occurred just minutes after Zarutska boarded the train and took a seat in front of Brown. Responding officers later located and arrested the suspect at a nearby station platform. Officials said Zarutska had recently come to the United States after fleeing the war in Ukraine. Family members described her as a gifted and passionate young woman who had hoped to build a safer future in America. Brown has been charged with first-degree murder under North Carolina law and also faces a federal charge of committing murder on a mass transportation system. If convicted, he could face a sentence ranging from life in prison to the death penalty.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and shorts. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.